have everybody. Wow. Cool.
Great showing. Welcome everybody to our opportunity to meet online. It is no longer a challenge for us because we've mastered it, right? Thank you so much for all being here, members of Speakeasy and the Toasters. And I believe that our Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Rubb, has his handy dandy flag ready.
You believe correctly, Madam President. If you will all please mute yourselves and focus on my voice and my screen and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you, Madam President. And
Thank
you,
Mr. Sergeant at Arms. We are going to have a delightful Toastmaster tonight. Miss Pat, would you like to begin your Toastmaster duties?
Surely, and it's an evening in which we're going to talk about challenges and opportunities, and that theme couldn't have been more appropriate in the times in which we're living, because there's no question that there are challenges associated with COVID-19 and how it's affected all the rest of our lives. I think we had to dig a little deeper to think about the opportunities. And what I'm seeing now in things that I'm reading and things that I'm hearing is people are discovering aspects of themselves and aspects of their life that they never considered because they didn't have the time to ponder. So, speaking of pondering, we have the whole area of evaluation, which is deep, deep pondering about performance. And our general evaluator tonight, because we have no change in our itinerary, and I don't see, well, I do see a guest. I see that Dean, who is our president's uncle, is back. All of a sudden he's disappeared. I don't know if he counts as a guest or not. Okay, well, anyway, back to our general evaluator, Mary Syrie. Mary.
Thank you, Pat. It's my pleasure to be general evaluator tonight. This is a fun role because, as Toastmasters says in their manuals, the general evaluator evaluates anything and everything that takes place throughout the meeting. But I don't have to do it all myself. There is an evaluation team, who I will introduce. Evaluation is a positive experience that's designed to help people overcome weak habits and add power to their good habits. The goal of the evaluation team is to help fellow Toastmasters develop their skills. So let's see who we have on the slate today. It's Eric Stepper as a speech evaluator today for Lloyd Smith's speech. Eric, could you tell us about your role?
My pleasure. Lloyd has given his icebreaker and he's given his first speech, and this is the second speech where he can give the same speech or a different speech, but he applies feedback that I gave him on the first speech. The feedback I gave him was to look at the camera and show us how it can be done well, because everybody has kind of their own style of looking at the camera or not looking at the camera effectively. I noted that Lloyd stood for his last presentation. I see him standing now. I mentioned that he gets a parched throat every now and then, have some water nearby. I saw him take a swig already before we got underway, so he's got that going. And he was swaying back and forth a little bit in his speech. So look for those things. He had a lot of positive things on his speech, but those are the kinds of things we're looking for him to correct. Timer of the speech is 5 to 7 minutes, and I will give my evaluation when called upon. This general evaluator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well done. Rob Tidd is our timer tonight. Rob.
Thank you. My role as timer is to assist those giving a speech or an evaluation or during table topics to stay within a set parameter of time and to help you when you're preparing your speeches to meet that designated timeline. Tonight we have a speech from Lloyd Smith, and I will be providing the following props to make sure that he stays on cue. At 5 minutes, I will produce the green card. At 6 minutes, I will produce the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will produce the red card. Later on, we will have an exciting segment of table topics, and at 1 minute, I will produce the green card. At 1.5 minutes, the yellow card. And at 2 minutes, the red card. And I will report at the end of the meeting on how everyone did. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Steve Schwind, it's nice to see you tonight. And you are our grammarian. What are you going to do?
I could dance, but it doesn't seem appropriate. As grammarian, my job is to listen to speakers and evaluate their good and bad use of the English language, which I typically like to do, to listen closely. Sometimes I may be a little critical of it, but how else can you get people to hate you? My further job is to introduce the word of the day to help us expand our vocabularies. I thought with our theme tonight, epiphany would fit nicely. And I have lost my little... Epiphany is a sudden intuitive perception of or insight into the reality or essential meaning of something, usually initiated by some simple homily or commonplace occurrence or experience. Used in a sentence, then at 18, she had her own very real epiphany to deal with, a first child. I'll listen for the use of the word. I'll listen for the use of grammar throughout the meeting and give a report when appropriate.
Very good. And that's the point of evaluations, is to give someone an epiphany so that they can break through whatever's holding them back in life. Finally, our awe counter is Kathleen McNulty. Kathleen.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. My job as awe counter is to identify words we are using as crutches or as filler words, such as well, so, like, but, etc. The purpose of doing this is so that we can all be better at how our speech flows without interruption by useless words. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you all. And we will report back at the end of the meeting. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. I think that Lloyd's speech will be a real epiphany for us. You know, you've probably heard the Boy Scouts motto, be prepared. That's actually good advice for all of us as we face the unpredictable events that come up so often in life. However, there are some unpredictable events where being prepared isn't possible or isn't enough. At those times, run, run is a better motto to live by. This evening, for the second speech in the Evaluation and Feedback Project in Level 1 of the Team Collaboration Path, Lloyd Smith will discuss one of these events. Lloyd Smith and CT, let us expect a true epiphany. I give you Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Toastmasters. Our lives are comprised of two kinds of events, the common and the uncommon. Those categories actually determine how we deal with the events in them. For example, if there's a stray dog in your backyard, how you deal with it is pretty clear because that's a common event. But what if you walk outside tonight to investigate a noise and you find a creature from another world? What would you do if you encounter an alien? It's obviously not very likely, but nothing is impossible. As science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke once put it, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally unlikely and equally terrifying. According to a new study in the Astrophysical Journal, current scientific thinking is that there are probably 36 communicating intelligent alien civilizations in the Milky Way. Based on the discovery of over 4,000 planets around other stars in our galaxy so far, astronomers estimate that there may be as many as 40 million of them. They're convinced that Earth is not unique. There are likely many other Earth-like planets in Earth-like orbits around Sun-like stars, and a number of those planets almost certainly host civilizations that developed technologically in a similar way to how humans did. There are calculations based on a principle called the astrobiological Copernican limit. I don't recommend you study that unless you're having a lot of trouble sleeping. But anyway, those calculations lead to the conclusion that the Milky Way contains between 4 and 211 civilizations capable of communicating with others, and statistically 36 is the most likely number. So what do you do if aliens showed up in your backyard tonight? The CD Institute has thought about that. CD is an acronym for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And the organization exists in order to explore, understand, and explain the origin and nature of life in the universe. CD's senior astronomer, Seth Shostak, says, if you meet an alien in your backyard, my recommendation is to get out of town in a hurry. If they have the technology to come here, they are so far beyond us that whatever they want to do, they're going to do it. If they're here to take over the planet, it's going to be pretty hard to stop them. The reason he thinks that is that if a creature from another planet shows up in your backyard, two things are absolutely certain. One, there is intelligent life somewhere else, and two, it is far advanced beyond us technologically. That's because of the distances involved. Alpha Centauri, the closest star to our sun, which does have 4 potentially life-supporting planets, is 4.2 light years away from us. In miles, that's 24.7 followed by 11 zeros. A species with the ability not only to travel enormous distances like that, but also to land undetected in your flower bed would simply have us outclassed, way outclassed. Your best course of action would be to run away as fast and as far as you can. Now, should you call 911 as you flee your home? That would be polite, but it's not likely to make much of a difference. That's because, as Shostak says, no government anywhere has a policy for dealing with aliens, because it would be like thinking the Neanderthals had a policy for dealing with an attack by the US military. If aliens were actually landing here, we could have whatever policy we wanted and it wouldn't be likely to be very helpful. The one thing you absolutely should not do is try to deal with the situation by yourself. You might think that if you just kept quiet about the aliens for a little bit, you might be able to make some money or at least get famous on YouTube. However, you need to understand that the alien in your backyard is not going to be E.T., a charming little 3-foot-tall creature with long fingers and a warm heart rustling around in your shrubs. He or she or it will be from a vastly advanced technology, and he or she or it might see you as no more than an interesting bug and act accordingly. One of the hard lessons history teaches us is that when a technologically advanced civilization confronts a less advanced civilization, the advanced civilization quickly overwhelms the less advanced one. Think about what happened to the Aztecs, the Incas, and the North American Indian tribes shortly after a relatively small number of Europeans arrived. Your personal encounter with aliens would actually be an event belonging to humanity as a whole. And we would have to think collectively about what it means and what, if anything, we could do about it. You'd get to be remembered as the first person to prove that there was intelligent life beyond Earth. That would be a lot less exciting in the short run than getting attacked by a little green man while you're taking the trash out, but at least you'd live to tell the story. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you very much. Now we'll switch to our table topics master, Ian Adams.
Wait, we need 1 minute?
Oops, you know what? I wrote myself a note. We do need 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. Thanks, Vicki.
1 minute. Starting now.
Starting now. I'm timing it. All right, that's 1 minute. Please send your feedback to Lloyd. And Ian, now you're on.
Thank you. Nice job with that speech tonight, Lloyd. I find that topic super interesting on a number of ways. And one of the things I'd like to know, who am I going to pick on? Kathleen, is aliens show up and there's going to be some challenges associated with that. There's also going to be some opportunities associated with that. Do you think the opportunities are going to be more positive or negative, in your opinion, disregarding what Lloyd just talked about?
Thank you. I couldn't possibly disregard what Lloyd just talked about because it was very entertaining. Thank you, Lloyd. Would there be more opportunities or challenges with aliens? I envision the alien arriving in my backyard, being greeted by my 80-pound dog, Sam, who would run out the door, barking ferociously, and then lick that alien to death. Pretty soon, the dogs from next door would climb under the fence, which they are known to do daily, and come over and have a look as well. I myself would wait and let them check things out. If it looked calm, it would be a great opportunity to wander down and find out what might be living in that alien body. It could be an epiphany, and I might learn something fabulous. The greatest opportunity would be to find life that is more advanced than we are, because we could use the help. Thank you.
Tonight's topic is challenges and opportunities. And I think it's an excellent topic for whoever came up with it, Lloyd probably, I'm not sure. And it's left wide open. Naturally, we would think challenges and opportunities. What is going on right now in the world? COVID is going on right now in the world. I don't necessarily want to talk just about COVID, because that seems like the easy topic, the default topic for the night. I want to talk about Toastmasters in this next topic. Joyce, I'd like to know briefly why you joined Toastmasters, and in your Toastmasters journey, have you had any epiphanies about the way you present yourself to a public forum?
Why did I join Toastmasters? For the fame and the glory? No, I joined because I suffer from anxiety, social anxiety, and depression. I thought before the you know what hit the fan, I thought I'm going to talk to people, real people, and try to prove to myself that the human race isn't as scary as my inner demons want me to believe. I went on Meetup app. I saw a little ad that says, "Come join us." And an epiphany came to me in the form of electronics. If I cannot be in the room with a bunch of people without hyperventilating, why not try Zoom? I'm by myself with the cats, but I'm joined to you. And you don't have to smell my house. Good for you. As for the way I present myself, it has changed for the fact that I feel less fearful of what will come out of my mouth, because I know that you will accept what I have to say in a positive light, even if every once in a while it sounds like I'm just doing a grunt. You seem to understand what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. I know I joined Toastmasters for a couple of different reasons. The primary one was that I was petrified of standing in front of a group of more than about 2 people, especially if I didn't know those folks. Since I began in Toastmasters, I have become comfortable in front of folks. I have learned that I often have some go-to filler words when I get nervous. And right now I'm in the process of trying to embrace the pause, allow myself to take a pause and not utilize a filler word. Christina, what has been the best thing that you've learned in your Toastmasters journey?
Thank you, Ian. The best thing I've learned in my Toastmasters journey is not a thing, but rather a group of people. Our club is amazing. When I first heard about Toastmasters, my impression was people in suits who had the hanger still in their jacket, stood up straight and looked down their noses at everyone who ever walked by or had the nerve to breathe around them. It was very refreshing to come to Toastmasters and find that people are people who dress in normal clothing, who enjoy getting together, who enjoy aspects of learning. After this meeting tonight, I'm going on a Zoom life coach training, 2-hour training on laughing yoga. I'm looking forward to that. I will be looking forward to sharing with you what that's about in a speech, not too far off. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Christina. Look on any brick and mortar bookstore bookshelf, and you'll find books about how to deal with challenges and opportunities. This is one I have here. What do you do with a problem? And this is a book that was given to my son. And it's one of the first books that he has learned how to read. He's 7 years old, going on 8, and he's graduated past the 6 or 8 page big letter books and is now reading 8-year-old self-help books. What I'd like to know, Pat, is what do you do with a problem when a problem is presented to you?
Wow. When a problem is presented to me, I try to think about it. I try to look at the pros and I try to look at the cons. And then I put it out into the universe in the hopes that divine right action will inspire me to know what is the correct way to deal with this particular problem. And then it's always helpful to be able to talk to someone wise who can help you to weigh if you're too much one way or too much the other. And that wise person tends to be my younger sister. She's my younger sister, she's my dearest friend, and she helps me to balance things when I have to make these kind of decisions. Life has problems. We can't avoid them. The thing that we need to do is look at the most positive path that we can follow for our own personal benefit, or if it affects others, for their benefit as well. And not to curl up in a fetal position and suck our thumb, even though sometimes we really want to do that when there's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. We've all had challenges in our lives. These challenges are unique to each of us. Our challenges have been small, our challenges have been big. Some of the smallest challenges that I've had in my life have turned out to be some of the best opportunities following the initial impact of that challenge. Ron, can you think of an opportunity that came from a seemingly minimal or minimalistic challenge that you had to deal with that turned into being a great opportunity in the long run?
A real small challenge there was making sure that I had muted myself because I haven't been really good at that lately. And I can't say anything specifically comes to mind, although one challenge that I've been dealing with that I think a lot of folks have is just feeling somewhat unsettled over what's going on with COVID. And this weekend, I decided to take a slightly different tact with that and just not feel challenged with it and find things to feel somewhat happy about. I want to share one with you. It wasn't this weekend. It was actually about a week, 2 weeks ago. My wife and I were watching some television at night before we went to bed. It was an old TV game show. I think it was called Match Game 74 or something like that. Which I'm guessing it was probably on in roughly 74 because Richard Dawson was pretty young in this. And it was a game where there were several folks like Richard Dawson, and there was a contestant. And they asked the contestant, it wasn't even a question, it was just fill in the blank. It was Elliot blank. And the various folks, Richard Dawson and others, would say, well, Elliot Gould, or there was 3 or 4 different Elliots. And this contestant got it right. And he did a few other things right. And at the end, he won $5,600. And they asked him, I said, what are you going to do with this $5,600? And get this, he says, well, I'm going to pay off my house and use what's left to go on a trip. And it was just really funny. And I was able to let my guard down to some degree and just, I know that's really good, these old game shows. What else did I do this weekend? I saw Eric and Christina. And we live pretty close to each other. You live over by the church on 5th Street, if I remember right. Yeah, so do I. And so I've seen you two walking over by the college at night. I take my girl dog walking over by the college. I saw you this weekend, I think it was this weekend, walking down by the barbecue Dilly Deli place. you two walk a lot, I've decided. And that's a good way just to get your mind off things and enjoy what's going on, enjoy the moment versus getting all wrapped up in COVID. I think that's really good. I think we can all learn from that to some degree. So what have I been doing, Ian, just as a challenge is just not to focus on what's right in front of us, but what's behind Lloyd's shirt. I love that, by the way, 2020 canceled. Enjoy the moment, enjoy the simple things in life. Thanks for listening to me ramble, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ron.
Table topics master, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Before the meeting started tonight, there was some discussion about primarily the electric toasters and whether or not we would be able to get a morning Toastmasters meeting started up. And as the president of the electric toasters, I have a responsibility to carry this process forward in whatever manner it's going to turn out to look like in the future. Fortunately, there's a number of folks involved with both of these clubs tonight that are helping that process out. One of the reasons they are helping this is I have found it very challenging in my life, the way it currently is situated, to devote much time to anything outside of my kids and my job. Rob, you mentioned that you are involved in both Rotary and in Toastmasters, possibly other things. What is your biggest, I've mentioned that one of my biggest challenges in life is finding time to do anything outside of my basic routine. What is your biggest challenge in life?
Well, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I believe that my biggest challenge is to keep myself occupied doing positive things during this time. I think that's why I immerse myself in so many different things. I love being a member of Toastmasters. I love being a Rotarian. I am looking forward to a football season. That's why we are acting like there is going to be a season. So we're meeting Saturday mornings. We're having meetings at night. It was one of the reasons why I decided to become a city councilman. I wanted to be involved in things outside my home and be involved in my community. And I've loved doing that as well. One of the things that I do each night before I go to bed is to challenge myself to solve a particular problem. Because I have found that if I go to bed with that problem in mind, I oftentimes will come up with a solution first thing in the morning. They don't always appear as an epiphany. Sometimes I cannot solve the problem, but it challenges me and it keeps my brain stimulated. And that's what I feel like is the most important thing for me in my life right now. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Rob. Vicki, in your new role in Toastmasters, what opportunity are you looking forward to most?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. The opportunity that I am looking forward to most has already started. I have been interviewing candidates for international positions, and that involves the other two people on the trio. And we've been on phone calls every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, getting to talk to these individuals who want to lead Toastmasters in a higher position. And there are certain things that I have not known about Toastmasters. I've been so involved at the club and district level that I never even thought of the international level. I have never been to an international conference, and I really wish that I would have been able to go prior to this year, because I think I would have had a better understanding of the grander size of Toastmasters International. But it has been so nice to be able to chat with all of these people from all over the world. I've talked to people from Australia, China, the Philippines, And just to hear their take on Toastmasters and where they want to take it is very interesting. And then I also realized that they have these grand ideas, and then once they get onto the board, they have to sometimes not reach those goals, but think of the organization as a whole. But it has been just wonderful to talk to all of these people and find out how Toastmasters is going in what direction. And I look forward to sharing everything with you as we learn more. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thanks, Vicki. Mary, you are in a couple of Toastmasters clubs, and there's obviously opportunities abound by being a member of multiple clubs. What challenges are you facing as a member of multiple clubs?
Much easier to belong to two clubs when they meet at the same time every week. So let's roll back to when we were both meeting in physical locations. So it's kind of silly and yet obvious. The hard part was getting up at 5:30 to have coffee and breakfast, get ready, shower, and then be down at either the PUD or the new location for a 7 o'clock meeting. And I like to get there a little bit early. So that was the challenge. And so that was not such a hard challenge. And so maybe a better way to look at this would be as a member, as a person who wants to deliver speeches and take on roles, what were the challenges? I was working at the time as well, so I didn't have the opportunity to write speeches as much as I would like to. So the challenge was being an effective member in two clubs when my time was spread so thinly. And I eventually did have to pull away from Electric Toasters. I think that was about the time that, oh no, I think it was just when work was really busy and I wasn't giving speeches, so why belong to two clubs? I had to pull back from Cascade Speakeasy when I quit my job, had to sell my house, had to move, and was building a new house. And that was just too much to deal with, and to even attend a weekly meeting was over the limit for me. But the opportunities involved with being a Toastmaster so far outweigh the challenges at this point that I'm a lifetime member. It was not so at the beginning of my Toastmaster career, but that's a speech for a different day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. This weekend it was hot, too hot for my liking. I've got a lot of outdoor projects I'm working on, and we started a new retaining wall project in the front of my house with 40-pound concrete blocks. Not the most fun job to do when it's 90+ degrees outside. I do find that the challenges that weather can bring in instances like this, where it's so hot outside I don't want to be there, tend to force me inside and create opportunities for me to do something else. For instance, install some blinds that have been sitting in a corner in a box waiting for the opportune time. Eric, do you find that weather creates challenges for you that in return, the challenges are reciprocated by opportunities?
Since I'm evaluator, I will let Dean handle that question. And if we have time, I will take another one.
Okay.
Oops. Oh, there we go. My computer just blanked out. Yeah, I find various challenges and opportunities in weather. I love to be outside, so it's more of an opportunity. I can be out in the mountains, and usually that's just very interesting weather. I've only had a couple of fairly bad experiences out there where I got really wet and cold. And on one occasion was also sick and barely got out to my car. That's a whole speech all in itself. But I do like the variations in the weather. It If it's cold, I can go skiing in the winter. If it's hot, I can go outside and go swimming. And I've loved the spring this year because we had rather variable weather. It was one front after another, and it never got real hot. And the clouds were extremely interesting and very pretty. I mean, I love a beautiful blue sky, but I find that a sky with clouds is more interesting. So I can deal with pretty much any kind of weather. Even when it's really hot, I just have to drink a lot and wear a hat and put on sunscreen. But mostly I pretty much enjoy weather, and it really keeps things interesting when I'm outside. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thanks, Dean. We're getting close on time. I think we've got enough for maybe one or two more questions. I'd like to actually ask a COVID question now that we're nearing the end of our table topics. And this question is going to be for Jackie. Jackie, what opportunities do you foresee us, and what I mean by us is our civilization, coming out of the COVID times?
That's a great question, Mr. Table Topics Master. I think that it's going to change the way we work, and it's going to change the way we live. I've thought about this in terms of the agricultural society. When we evolved into the industrial age, people came into the cities, and that drove technology. And I feel like what is happening now is everything is going online. And one of the benefits of that, one of the opportunities to come out of the challenge, is I feel like you in the future can be living anywhere, and you can be working from anywhere. I know that was a relatively new concept when Tim Ferriss wrote his book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And he talked about going to your boss and asking, oh, can I work this many months from home? And use that opportunity to go travel and take some of that time. I feel like that is becoming the norm now. And after we emerge from COVID, Zoom will be so entrenched in our society, and the idea that you can do so much online, that I feel like when it's medically safe again, it's going to become an even more global society. And I think that will further things like travel, which is exciting to me because I love to travel. I think it's an exciting opportunity that will come after we have gotten through the difficulties of this challenge. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thanks, Jackie. We've got time for one more. Steve Schwind, you haven't gotten a question yet tonight. You're an artist, you're a mountain biker. What opportunities have you really, let me rephrase that. During this COVID time, have any opportunities presented themselves that have benefited your art or your mountain biking habits? Let's call them habits.
Thank you. I've got to go and fulfill my habit now. I'll be right back. I think the COVID thing was a boon for me in both of those disciplines. The beauty of, well, not the beauty of it, but the outcome of COVID was that it put us home more. It grounded us in our space, and it was a great thing. I discovered the beauty of being at home. I'm always out the door and on the run and feel a little bit like a caged animal when I have to remain indoors for too long. The thing with art that I found is that it does keep me indoors, and being home a lot allowed me the opportunity to explore that more over longer periods of time. I'd escape for a few minutes to be able to paint a little bit and then dash off to work to do one thing or another. And being sequestered here, I found that I got to steep myself in my art. And per the speech I did a while ago, my research found that out of a lot of instances where researchers looked at COVID what's the word? Getting COVID was the result of indoor exposures where the air is still and stagnant and not moving around much. That COVID floats around in the air. And so going outside gives you the opportunity to be among fresh air where the slightest breeze dissipates the concentration of COVID. Open the door to more mountain biking and road biking and running and jumping and skipping. It was a great thing in the context of how it allowed me to expand my interests. Not such a good thing as far as our general societal health, however. Thank you.
You're muted, Ian.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I had a kid that came in and told me all about one of our fish that just died. So that's one of our challenges for this evening. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Toastmaster. Pat, would you please take it away?
Thank you very much. That was really a dynamic process that we experienced. I had an epiphany. I realized that I misintroduced Dean, and my apologies to you. I know that you are a distant person who has come back to the organization and join us, and I welcome you, and I apologize for my senior moment. Now, it is my role to pass this back to our general evaluator, Mary Siri. Mary.
And thank you, Pat. What a great meeting this has been. Let's get rolling on the evaluation portion of our meeting now, and we'll start with Eric Stepper, who will evaluate Lloyd's speech. Eric?
My pleasure. Lloyd, I got two epiphanies from this speech. Epiphany number one is you can teach an old dog new tricks. Epiphany number two is that you do listen to me. I got to use the word of the day epiphany 3 times, which I've never done before, so thank you for that. Lloyd, you gave us a total clinic on how to look in the camera. You stood up, your face was centered in the frame, and it filled the frame. We could get eye contact with you. I could tell that you were searching the gallery and looking at everybody's eyes. It was classic. I implore everybody to watch how he did this, and this is how you should do it. I would have to say I've evaluated you 20 plus times, Lloyd. And I would have to say 100% of the time, I've marked you down, chastised you for looking at the ground. You didn't do that one time. Zoom behooves you. That was great. You had a great speech and you were ripping through it and you didn't cough one time. And that's a rarity too. You usually cough once, maybe twice. Sometimes you have a fit. You didn't cough at all. Awesome. You didn't sway at all. You were grounded right to it. It was classic on how to give a Zoom presentation, in my opinion. You had a great speech. You had a great voice. You had great pace, all those things. This was easily my most enjoyable speech done by you. And I had a lot of things going on and trying to process a lot of stuff, but I truly can't write you down for anything. Good job, Lloyd.
Thank you, Eric. Rob was our timer. How did we do with our timing, Rob?
We were all on time, but I'll give you a breakdown. I'll start with Lloyd's speech. Lloyd, you were at 5 minutes, 47 seconds. Eric, in your evaluation, you were 1:50. And table topics, from the top, Kathleen, you were 1:28. Joyce, you were a minute 39. Christina, a minute 30. Pat, a minute 26. I was a minute 13. Vicki, you were a minute 44. Mary, a minute 58. Dean, a minute 32. Jackie, a minute 44. Ron, 2 minutes, 36 seconds. And Steve, 2 minutes, 18 seconds. Well done, everyone. And that's my report.
Okay, great. Steve Schwind, you picked such a good word today. How did we do with word of the day and with our grammar?
Thank you, Mary. We had a robust use of the word. Rob used it once, Mary once, Eric once. Eric. Pat twice, Kathleen once, Ian once. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but that's what I heard. Joyce. Oh, there it is, Joyce, as you wrote down. My error. Forgive me. Nobody butchered the English language. I didn't think there was anything just extremely outstanding outside of an alien lands in your flower bed. That was a great picture. It just opened up in my mind when I heard that. I loved it. Lloyd, you've always got those great colorful little additions to your speech. They evoke a chuckle from your listeners, and they help to generate the picture of the message you're conveying. Them's my thoughts.
Them's good thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks.
You bet. And Kathleen, you counted the ahs today in the filler words. Tell us how you did.
Overall, the big challenge tonight for us was the word and. It's a hard thing as you're listening to figure out whether the and is appropriate or whether it's filler. I tried to distinguish that. If there were many of them, I'm going to mention it. If they seem to be very, very long sentences that could have been broken up. Overall, a very good night for everyone, with the exception of the and thing. Jackie, I have you with one repeat, I, and a few ands thrown in. Pat, a well, a so. One other, the word now. I had trouble reading my writing here. Eric, one so, a few ands. Rob, one so, one but. A very few number of ands. I have some people written down here twice. Lloyd, you were amazing. One so. One now. Now is typically a very frequently used word. It was pretty amazing. Lots of tongue twisters in your speech though. Good job on that. Ian, I don't have you down for any ahs, ums, et ceteras. Quite a few ands. That would be the thing to think about. Joyce, one but. Christina's clean. These people down here twice. Ron, one ah, one so, one but, a few ands. Vicki, two buts, a few ands. Mary, one five so's, one but. Dean had one so, three buts, and several ands. Finally, Steve had one ah, one well, one repeat word in. And that's it. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, good job. Thank you. Before the meeting started, pre-meeting, we had a meaningful discussion on the future of our meetings, the future of our two clubs. How is it going to work when we do get to meet in person? Are we going to be able to find a physical space? Usually we just chatter and banter, but those are important issues that I think we will continue offline through email with club officers or amongst each other. But I was glad to hear that topic being approached before the meeting started. It's something we're all thinking about in the back of our minds. I want to call out Lloyd for not only giving us like your topics, they're so random. You know, who would have thought about what do you do when an alien lands in your backyard? It's funny, it's evocative, and yeah, what would I do? And I like the option to just run, just get out of town if you can. I also want to call you out and thank you for choosing interesting themes, and it gives the Table Topics Master something to go on, something that's meaningful. And tonight, Ian, you did a great job on giving us not fluffy topics, fluffy questions, but insightful questions, and gave us a chance to thought, but they weren't so difficult that we couldn't come up with anything. Although if I use the word so a lot, it's because I do so. S-E-W. So I think that's why it's my word. What else do I want to say about this? I think that's it. Oh, the other thing, Ian, I like just the short-ish lead-in. You gave us just enough meat with the question, enough background so that we could generate a few topics in our head, and then you hit with the question and the person. And I think we all felt like we could have answered the question if you'd chosen us. So I thought that you did a really good job in that regard as well. And Eric, I know it's hard to evaluate Lloyd's speeches. Right, this is probably the only time you've never been able to come up with something for him to work on. I couldn't either. So, sometimes it's just hard. It probably wasn't perfect, but it gets down to nitpicking. Good job, good meeting, good clubs. And now I'd like to hand it over to tonight's president, Jackie.
Thank you so much, Mary. What a fun meeting. And interesting, such an interesting topic, interesting answers. Is there anything, actually, no, let's vote before I forget. Let's vote on who is the speaker of the week. Who are we gonna send the votes to? Send them to Rob.
I have an interesting observation. Has anybody else had any issues with this? When you look at yourself in your Zoom picture, if you wink with your left eye, you expect to see it on the left side, but it's not. It's on the right side. Have you noticed that? If you lean this way, it's like, no way, I thought I was going this way. Have you noticed that?
I'd like to comment on that right-left thing. I take my hula class on Thursdays, and when they model it, they're going this way, but we're supposed to go this way. It's the same thing as the right eye, left eye thing, except it's hula movements, and it's making me nuts.
There's a lot of important things in life that one should really dwell on. I think this is one of them.
I wonder if it's a difference between phone and laptop, because when I'm blinking my left eye, and it looks like my left eye to me.
While
me too.
That critical issue, we do have a really interesting opportunity coming up almost exactly 1 month from now. The International Convention that Vicki mentioned briefly is not going to be held in person this summer. It can't be because of all the travel restrictions. It was originally set for Paris, but it's going to be an entirely virtual event. And it runs from August 24th through August 29th. They're not going to charge anything for it, which is very different from the live international convention, which is a costly event. Everything, all the educational sessions, the semifinals and finals of the international speech contest, the whole thing is going to be online. Right now, there are no details available on how to sign up or anything like that. That's going to probably come up in the next week or 2 or 3. But this would be a good thing to see, especially for the speech contest, because these are world-class speakers who are going to be demonstrating speaking on video is what it amounts to. So it's worth seeing. You know, but anyway, it's all going to be free in late August.
Thank you, Lloyd. Steve, you had something to mention? Steve?
I do. I went to the officers training and saw our boy Rob down there at the meeting as well. I had to leave a little bit early, but it was really a great content-filled training. It opened my eyes to a few thoughts, none of which I'm going to share at the moment because I'd have to think about it a little bit. But it was truly valuable. It was a good experience. How did you find it, Rob?
I found it very, very informative. And actually, I took a couple of great ideas away from that. I know that I was not the only one from our club. I know Ron Slaybaugh was there, and of course, Vicky was there. So we had a pretty good representation last weekend, which was terrific.
Fantastic. Can you share with us, Mr. Ah, as you changed your name to, who won tonight as the Speaker of the Week?
I sure can. The results are not alien to anybody on this call. He won in a landslide vote. Congratulations, Lloyd Smith. Way to go, Lloyd.
Woo! It's not an epiphany that he won. Better late than never.
Madam President, I believe Christina had her hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we need to log off because I have another Zoom meeting that starts right now. So, good night, everyone.
Good night.
See ya.
Bye.
How can we miss you if you won't go away?
I can't figure out how to get you back to go away. There you are.
Since everybody's still here, can I share one of my latest efforts?
Nice.
That really looks bad, actually.
That looks
Is there no color? Are you guys seeing color? I see like it looks like a black and white.
But that's really hard to paint on the screen of your phone.
You know, it is because it's small. It's hard to paint small. That's a good observation, Lloyd. You're always on top of your game. That gentleman, I don't recall his name, but he's some of our extended family fought against the Confederates way back in the dark ages. It was fun to paint, though. Thanks for humoring me.
The meeting was adjourned, so
Apparently.
we're over time anyway.
We've lost